The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Wednesday. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday. It's a World Cup qualifying Wednesday. It's the last World Cup qualifying Wednesday for the U.S. men's national team. They're in Costa Rica. They are all but into the World Cup. There's only a couple of spots left. U.S. and Mexico should claim 2 of those today. It's the only 2 automatic spots that can be claimed today, along with a playoff spot out of CONCACAF, and along with the interconfederational playoff spot out of Oceania, as the Solomon Islands and New Zealand play at 1 o'clock. The draw is on Friday. We have a pretty good idea of where things will fall for the draw now after yesterday's chaos worldwide. And there was good chaos, there was fun chaos, there was horrendous chaos, and there was awful chaos yesterday in the world. You had pitch invasions in Africa. You had a doctor die in this situation. In Nigeria, you had Ghana advance to the World Cup there, but fans ran onto the field. You had lasers all over the place in Senegal. Egypt lost in a penalty shootout. All the good and all the bad. I mean, it's a World Cup qualifying day, and it's where we are in the world right now, so you're going to get a little bit of both, sadly. But that was horrendous news to get this morning, that a doctor from Zambia who has been a CAF doctor many, many times over the years. He was the CAF/FIFA medical officer at the Nigeria-Ghana game. Died yesterday working as fans ran onto the field in Nigeria after the game, after Nigeria was eliminated. They weren't able to save him. There's just no place for any of this kind of stuff, and as excited as you get about the game, and as excited as we get about the wild finish for Cameroon and a late goal that puts them into the World Cup, and the beautiful scenes out of Peru with fans singing for Gianluca Lapadula, and all of the wonderful things that we saw, you get these kinds of stories too. And it's just, at times it's really difficult. At times it's really difficult to figure out how to approach this stuff. Nigeria played poorly. I mean, there's just no way around it. But the scene's turning ugly as Ghana players and staff are hit with water bottles. I mean, that's even the minor thing of this. When you have a doctor getting beaten by fans running on the field, doctor has nothing to do with anything in this game. It's just really, really, really frustrating that these are the stories that we have around the game sometimes. And it's a worldwide thing. And I don't want to hear anybody start pointing, well, that's there, but it doesn't happen over here. Shut up. It's happened everywhere worldwide. We're going to have a lot of these kinds of confluences of conversations around the game over this next year, where the World Cup is going to be in a very problematic place, and it was acquired in a problematic way for Qatar. I think it's going to be difficult for anybody talking about the sport at times because of this situation. It's like, normally when you have a World Cup, you're celebrating the nation that the World Cup is in. Well, it's a little hard to celebrate this one considering how the World Cup was acquired, and many, 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 many other reasons. It's awkward. It's weird. It's I guess where we are in the world today, right? Where you have all these things mixed into a bag at the same time. And at times it can be overwhelming. At times it can be difficult. I hope that whatever went wrong in Nigeria in terms of fans being allowed to run onto the field after a game where their team lost, and you have angry people running onto the field, I hope that is fixed, and they shouldn't be hosting games for a while. Not even behind closed doors. They shouldn't be hosting games for a while. You can't. A man died. You can't. Senegal shouldn't be hosting games for a while. Egypt shouldn't be hosting games either, because you had the laser pointers in the first leg too. But no, they shouldn't be hosting games for a while. And that's going to be the only way to solve this stuff, whether it is, racial chanting, banners, things being thrown, laser pointers, pitch invasions, all of this stuff. You have to take it away from those places. You have to take the games away. And you have to then hope that you don't just take it away and stick your head in the sand and think that it's going to disappear. You're going to have to work at it. You have to. And the game has to. And all the people that are in charge of the game have to. Because they are stewards for the rest of us. They're stewards for the next generation. They're stewards for the kids. They're stewards for the players who are given everything they have on the field and then have to run away from people who are obviously violent. And you have to do that after you've had one of the greatest sporting moments of your life. This stuff has to get cleaned up. FIFA has to stop just ignoring it. CAF, UEFA, CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, Asian Confederation, all of them have to stop ignoring it. A man died serving as a medical officer at a game where the home team lost, and people were angry. Just keep that in the back of your mind. This is where things are at times. Keep in the back of your mind everything that's happened in Qatar in the build-up to this tournament. People have lost their lives putting this tournament together. It doesn't mean, and this is where it's the tough balance, because I love this game. You guys know that. I love everything about it. I love the drama, the fun, the craziness, the flair, the creativity. All of these things about the game are beautiful and wonderful, and it's the best sport in the world to me. But these are the times where it's sometimes difficult to put it into context. And we're going to have a whole year of this kind of stuff, because the World Cup is going to be in a very problematic place. It's not fair to the athletes. It's not fair to the teams. It's not fair to all the great in the game to not talk about it or to ignore it or any of those things. I don't believe in that. I'm sorry. That doesn't minimize some of the atrocities that have taken place in the build-up to this tournament and the way it was acquired and what has been done to build the venues and all of that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't ignore that. But it's not fair to the athletes who had nothing to do with it, who work their whole lives to get here. It's not fair to them to ignore it or belittle it. So then what do you do? There's not really a good answer. There's not really an easy way to do it. And I don't really have that roadmap. And I'm not really asking for help in creating the roadmap either right now. I'm just saying, these are the things that go through your mind in the sport sometimes. And these are the things that, you get mad because in a report about a game, you're not talking about where the World Cup's going to be held. That's not fair to the athletes, but you can't ignore what's happening either. There's a lot of stuff, and it's sometimes hard. I mean, I can't imagine, because I have been in games. It's been a minute, but I've been in games as a, kind of field official, team ops person, whatever. And just to imagine being there and not making it back, just like we saw with the fans in Querétaro, who you go to the game because that's what you do. You go to a game, you're with your kids, you're with your family, and you're there to enjoy it. Dr. Joseph Kabongo is there to work, and he's done it for years, and he's one of the most respected people from the Zambian soccer community. And he doesn't get to do this again. He doesn't get home because of stupidity. It's just, this is the stuff that there's so much about the game that is wonderful that I hope that people who have, I think, positions of power within it, I hope that this stops becoming something you just brush off. And you have to deal with it. You don't minimize all the great things about the game either. I don't believe in that. We're not all as emotionally invested as we are if the game's not what it is. It's a very special thing. But you can't ignore that in the past, I mean, you give it a month. The past month, we've had some horrible, horrible things happen. And over the years, we have as well. We all know this. This has got to be talked about. This has got to be dealt with. And this has got to change. In the world at large, yes. And in our soccer world, our football world, it has to. We can't ignore it. So As you're working through your notes and you're going through and I'm going through everything from yesterday, and I watched games, all day because it was just, I disagree with people saying it was like the last great day of World Cup qualifying. No, I think where the drama happens will change. You'll have maybe some lower ranked teams with this kind of drama, but you're going to get to the last days of World Cup qualifying and you're going to have amazing storylines. That's a little hard at times to get excited about it when you hear these kinds of things and you see these things. And again, it's not just because this one happened in Africa that it's an African problem. No, it's not. It's not. This stuff happens everywhere in the world, and it has to stop. We all have to make it stop, and we all have to work to make it stop, and stop throwing our hands up and saying, "Oh, well, everything's crazy in the world. There's nothing we can do. It's just how it is." It doesn't mean we have to accept it. It doesn't mean we have to just say like, "Oh, well, just now when we go to games, we have to be careful about we might not make it home. That's just how it is." No, it's not. It doesn't have to be. So, as I say to all of you who listen to the show, because it's not about us being in a different place than you. I'm lucky, John's lucky, in that we get to work in the game, and we do get to do some things that are pretty special and pretty cool. And that's amazing. It's something I would have never guessed would have happened to me. But when we're not working that game, we're fans, and we love the sport, and we love the sport at all levels. And you guys out there who work in different aspects of the sport, just fans, volunteers, get a paycheck from it, all of that, doesn't matter. If you're involved in the game in any capacity, fans included, I think you have a responsibility to work to make it better. That's how just my mentality is about communities and the world, and all of that is anyway. But in this game, we've got to leave it in a better place for the next generations coming. And right now, it's not in a good place. It's not in a good place at times. There's still wonderful things that happen in it. And it's not to escape that, but there's a lot of bad things that are happening in it too. And we can't just say that, oh, well, nothing we can do. No, we have to put pressure on FIFA. We have to put pressure on all the confederations at the continental level, all the national associations, that this stuff is unacceptable and it has to change. We all, whether we're working in the game or whether we're attending as a fan at the stadium, we have to feel safe. We have to protect the players from, and fans and everybody involved. Again, we have to protect them from being racially abused, from having things thrown at them. I mean, it's just like the basics of the basic that I guess at times we just let go because game has passion in it. Yep. That doesn't excuse idiotic behavior, and we've got to stop with it. So, may his soul rest in peace, Joseph Kabungo, who was a doctor for the CAF and a FIFA medical official who was killed by fans running onto the field in the game in Nigeria yesterday. So now we're going to try to talk about soccer as best we can, because there were a lot of things in the game that were great yesterday in terms of the football. We've mentioned the laser pointers and things in Senegal and Egypt. I said it during the watch along on our Discord channel, John. If I'm the goalkeeper for Egypt, if I'm Mo Salah, I'm going up for the first kick and I'm getting those lasers like pointed in my eyes, and I don't know how distracting it is. It's distracting to some level. It has to be. I don't know exactly how it is. I've never been in that situation. I'm not taking a kick. I'm demanding that they deal with it. I'm not proceeding. It was, I mean, and again, just to be clear, if you didn't watch the first leg, it happened in Egypt as well. You had laser pointers going on there too. This isn't just Senegal bad because that's what you saw in this game. No, it happened in the first leg. Both are bad. But if I'm in that penalty shootout and I know what's on the line, I am forcing the referee to deal with the stadium people, and I'm forcing them to deal with it. And look, then you got to worry again, I guess, about your safety because that stuff's going to come up. But yeah, I'm making them deal with that. I'm not putting my World Cup on the line by potentially getting distracted by lasers in my eyes.
Absolutely backing away. Absolutely going to the center ref or anyone attached to any position of authority and sitting there saying, no, I'm not doing it. And something's got to be done about everything going on in this particular section of the stadium. I mean, we saw it on goal kicks.
It was the whole stadium. There's no section that was free of this. You're not going to go to the other end and it's going to be okay. It was everywhere.
And, I mean, there was, you've got keepers taking goal kicks and you've got laser pointers going in their eyes. And there was one moment where literally you could see the one keeper flinch as he's approaching the ball because the laser pointer was directed right in his eyes and it almost affected the kick directly. So no, especially in the penalty kick situation, I am backing away and forcing some kind of a fix in that particular situation. No, it was completely and totally out of control. It was out of control in both legs, but in a situation right there at the end, I'm backing away going, I'm not doing nothing right now. No chance.
Yeah, and look, Egypt fans, I'm sorry, there's not a whole lot to complain about here because your fans did this in the home leg too. It just the shootout wasn't in Egypt. The shootout was in Senegal. It's just another element that's got to stop because how much of an effect did it have? I haven't heard a quote from Salah or from the goalkeeper, from anybody else about it. It has to be distracting. I don't know how it isn't, but I'm again, like I said, I'm not allowing them to go forward with it. I'm going to force them to have that stop and make them deal with it because it had to have some effect. Now, Senegal didn't really take much advantage of it with their penalties early on. It was pretty wild the first couple of rounds, but eventually Sadio Mane scores the winning penalty in the shootout. Senegal goes to the World Cup. Egypt stays at home. Both teams scored in the 4th minute of their home legs and couldn't find the difference after that. Egypt came in to defend and defend and defend. Well, next time, maybe don't defend and defend and defend and not try to win the game in regulation or in extra time when you are running the risk of having, if the stadium seated 50,000, there's probably at least 25,000 lasers being pointed at different parts of you. Yeah, I'm not running that risk. I'm not taking it to penalties in that. The Egyptian FA, and again, to add more ridiculousness to this game, the Egyptian FA said its players, Mo Salah in particular, were subject of racist abuse from Senegal fans during the game. Now, they did point to a banner that had nothing to do with racist abuse. It was just abuse of blank you Salah. That's not a racist banner. That's just a bad banner. But their bus was also attacked on the way to the stadium. So, again, add more to this. Hit with things on the way to the stadium. Window was shattered. Cracked windscreen. Rock had been thrown into the vehicle. They threw bottles and rocks at them during the warm-up. Yeah, you can be an intimidating place to play. You can be a difficult place to play without this kind of garbage. And it's got to stop. They can't host games anymore. I don't know how long you want to make it. CAF and FIFA, it's a FIFA game, so they're going to have to rule on it. They can't host games. They can't host upcoming AFCON qualifiers. And if I'm FIFA, I'm making them not host World Cup qualifiers next time around. And Egypt has to be punished as well for the laser pointers in the first leg. It's the only way to do it. So it's got to be done. We did talk about Nigeria and Ghana on the field. Away goals is how Ghana goes through. Thomas Partey, shock lead against the run of play in the 10th minute, leveled 12 minutes later. It was 0-0 in the first leg, but Ghana scores on the road, and they go through on away goals. Ghana defended well after that. They go through. The Cameroon game, if you didn't see the end of that, goes to extra time, and Algeria scores in, the 118th? And it's, okay, Algeria's going to the World Cup. This is amazing. This is amazing. 3rd or 4th minute of stoppage time and extra time. It was a minute after the whistle was supposed to blow, but there were delays. Cameroon scores on just a crazy moment. It's just headed in, and a player, no hesitation, just swings and knocks it in off the volley. And Cameroon goes through with pretty much the last kick of the game. Incredible for Cameroon, who have not been very good in the last year. They weren't good at AFCON, even though they hosted it. They weren't really good in the series, but one moment of magic, and they're going to a World Cup. Morocco took care of business against DR Congo as expected. They won big. And Tunisia and Mali, Tunisia goes through there, which was expected. So that's the African qualifiers. We didn't get to talk about it at the end of the show yesterday, John, but Iraq did not take care of business. UAE actually did, so it wouldn't have mattered what Iraq did.
Yep.
UAE got a 1-0 win over South Korea, who had been in the tournament for a long time by now. So it's UAE and Australia for the play-in game out of Asia. They will play Peru, who took care of their business yesterday very early. Didn't leave it late. Didn't matter what Colombia did. They ended up winning. Didn't matter what Chile did. They ended up losing. Horrible finish to the campaign for Chile. Peru took care of the business in front of them. They will play the winner of UAE and Australia. Solomon Islands and New Zealand is the Oceania play-in. That is today at 1 o'clock. That winner will play right now, according to the CONCACAF table, Costa Rica. Right now. That's who it should be. We'll know at the end of the night tonight, 9:05 kickoffs around CONCACAF. The Mexico game could affect that, and the U.S.-Costa Rica game could affect that. But it's going to take a lot of doing for Costa Rica to find a way to qualify automatically. And they've got a lot of players who are at risk of, if they pick up a yellow, would be suspended for that playoff. If they go into the playoff, they would not be suspended for the first game of the World Cup unless there's a red card tonight. Those players are suspended for the first game of the World Cup. But you don't get a suspension for yellow card accumulation for the first game of the World Cup. But Costa Rica likely not going to the first game of the World Cup straight away. They're going to a playoff, so they have to be careful with this. And for the U.S., you have to be careful as well. You can't lose by 6. You're not going in playing for a draw. Greg Berhalter said they're not taking anything for granted. They're not going to be cautious. They're not going to sit back. They're playing for a win. He thinks that's the mentality they need. I totally agree. It's a weird game. It's an awkward one. It seems like the vibe, according to John Arnold of the Getting CONCACAF newsletter down in Costa Rica, is one of kind of celebration of a great turnaround and getting to this point, and one of, I think, an understanding that they're not going to go automatically unless things get absolutely crazy. They haven't scored a bunch of goals in World Cup qualifying to begin with, and they'd need 6 tonight at a minimum to go through automatically. They're pretty much preparing for June and a playoff.
I've got a question for you, and I know that this has come in as a bit of a bone of contention for some. Is R13, if I can get my subject-verb agreement correct, are 13 matches too few to have yellow card accumulation to affect things in a qualification tournament?
No, you should have yellow card accumulation. You should not eliminate yellow card accumulation. No, I would thoroughly disagree with that. Is 2 yellows too low of a number? Yeah, I think it should be at least 3. But yes, you have to have yellow card accumulation. If you don't, the game changes dramatically.
And that was kind of where I was trying to gauge where you were just with the number of games. I understand the idea of yellow card accumulation within a qualification tournament itself.
This is more games than it's been before. This is more games than anybody but South America plays. And so, I mean, if this is a small number, pay attention to what South America does with 18. This is pretty substantial. 14 games, because that's what you're playing, is pretty substantial. You should have accumulation. There's no way you should eliminate yellow card accumulation. I would thoroughly disagree with that.
But to accrue
the amount, yeah, sure. Change the amount. That's a different conversation. But you started it with, should you have yellow card accumulation? And yes, you should. Otherwise, I'm going to pick up yellow card fouls nonstop because I can, and I don't get punished if I just get 1 in a game. And no, that's not what we want in the game.
But you would rather have 3 or more as opposed to 2 in a qualification, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
2 too short.
Yeah, two to me is too. 2 to me is too short a number, or too few a number.
There's no debate on it. It's too short. I mean, if we're both on the same side, we don't have to keep going down this road. It's done. It's too short in that number of games. It's too short in general, in my opinion. I think it needs to be more. A World Cup, that situation where you're playing 3 games in a group, maybe going to 2 games in a group down the road. That's where I think we're having a different conversation. I would set it at least 3. because I don't want players missing World Cup games due to 2 yellow cards in 2 different games. I don't want that in a World Cup that's a short format. 14 games in World Cup qualifying, yeah, you got to have some kind of accumulation. 10 games, you got to have some kind of accumulation. 8 games, you got to have some kind of accumulation. But when you're playing a 3-game group and then you're going into knockouts, I don't want knockouts affected by a couple of yellow cards.
And that was why I wanted to bring it in, because I've seen the discussion, and not just in our Twitch pitch or anything like that, where folks were sitting there saying that it was 2 was either not enough or you can't have yellow card accumulation and those kinds of things.
I haven't seen anybody say you can't have yellow card accumulation in qualifying. I've missed that. If it's out there, it's not realistic. You can figure out a better number, sure, but I haven't seen anybody really lobby for eliminating yellow card accumulation in qualifying.
Yeah.
In a finals tournament, I'm okay with if you want to do that, or if you want to set like a higher bar to where, man, you got to be really out of pocket picking up a yellow in every game to miss a big knockout game.
Because I had seen both, and I just wanted
I don't know wwhere you're looking, John. Is that an English thing?
Oh, I'm sure it's English on.
Are the English complaining about it? Because that's where you normally look. So
yeah.
I'm wondering where this is coming from.
It was. I can't remember where specifically it was on the Bird app, and it was something that it trickled in there, but I can't remember the genesis of where it was.
You just can't have that, because again, I could commit tactical fouls all day, every day, nonstop, and just get up to the yellow card in a game and then not do it again, and do that every game. And that's not what we want. You have to have some kind of accumulation in anything resembling a season. 14 games is resembling a season. 10 games is resembling a season. So anyway, what else you got?
The scenes yesterday in Peru, because I did not have subscriptions to watch things in South America. I was kind of following along as word was coming out in matchups like that. But the scenes in Peru yesterday, that was stuff that I did follow. What was it like to see what was going on in Peru yesterday?
They took care of business. They didn't hesitate. And for a team that I don't think in terms of talent, they're the number 5 team in South America, and they've done it twice now. I don't think they have the 5th best talent. I think Ricardo Gareca has been one of the best coaches in the world over these past couple of cycles to get Peru there. It didn't start well for them, and he had to really helm a turnaround. And one of the people who helped do that is a 32-year-old Peruvian Italian who's kind of a journeyman in the Italian leagues, Gianluca Lapadula, who had been called up by Italy in the past, never played in a competitive match. So he could join Peru, debuted in November of 2020, 30 years old, 7 goals in 20 games. He's not fast. He's very smart, constant movement. He's always finding the open space. He's just got that nose for goal. 4 goals in the Copa America last year. He got the opener here. It's not Peru's typical way to have to figure this out late, because they generally have great forwards. I mean, go all the way back to Teofilo Cubillas, who played for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers later in his career. Paulo Guerrero, who was expected to be the guy here, but he's had injuries. He's 38 as well. You had to find somebody. They find Lapadula, and he's been amazing, and he's been embraced, and he's embraced Peru. It's been a lot of fun to watch. This is the call of Lapadula's first goal that pretty much put Peru on their way. They had to win to clinch going through. It didn't matter what Colombia did or Chile did if Peru wins. They started out really well, and they got an early goal. They're playing Paraguay, who's eliminated and had nothing to play for, and this goal kind of broke their back. Jose Gino Bonatti is the commentator, and Luis Miguel Echegaray of CBS Sports shared this. I'm going to try to cue it up. Give me one sec. And this is the opener from the Peru match yesterday in Spanish.
Se empiezan a juntar, se empiezan a formar las sociedades. Pasa Cristian Cueva que no. Que pelota le empieza a la Padula. La Padula está lejos.
banging on the glass, jumping up and down. Very, very cool. It's a huge moment for them because they were not expected to be getting to this point. And to get there, I mean, it's huge. You had to go through the playoff route last time. They did it. They beat New Zealand over 2 legs. Now it's going to be 1 game, and it's not going to be easy if it's Australia because, I mean, you're talking about a different level of competition. Now, Australia's got issues. They've been a big disappointment. There's talk that maybe their manager doesn't even get to the playoff. But Peru, Australia in a 1-game knockout in Qatar, whew, it's going to be a great match in June. And look, the 32-year-old journeyman playing in Serie B right now with Benevento, maybe he could have helped Italy. Just saying. They had him in at one point. They didn't keep him. He goes to Peru, and he leads a resurrection for Peru to get them into a playoff spot. Just amazing story.
And that's the kind of stuff that you love to see in qualification rounds and in moments like this. It's the player that, for whatever reason, is ignored and put aside, no, you're not worthy of being here with us, and then you go someplace else, and you have moments like this. And I watched the moments after the match where the Peruvian players, they're on the pitch and they're searching out their fans, and just the response to Lapadula and the Peruvian national team as they were taking the lap, and the appreciation that was there in a moment like that. Those are the kind of stories that you absolutely love to see in qualification cycles and moments like this, as Peru is that much closer to making it to a World Cup. Those was great scenes last night. And, kudos to everyone who was there to capture those kinds of moments, to show the rest of us what this kind of stuff means.
So you're far enough along now that there's actually World Cup 2022 group stage draw simulators out there. I think it's 27 spots are now identified. What you have left to decide, I think it's easier to work from that. 2 CONCACAF automatic spots that'll be determined today. It should be the U.S. and Mexico. We know things can happen, but it should be the U.S. and Mexico. You have 1 more spot in Europe to be determined with Ukraine's pathway. They have to play Scotland in a semifinal. The winner of that will play Wales. That has to happen this summer. The Asian playoff to get to the interconfederational playoff has to happen before. So that happens in June. That's Australia and UAE. You have the Oceania game today, New Zealand and Solomon Islands. The winner of that will go in to play that 4th place team from CONCACAF that right now is Costa Rica. That's what's left. Peru, and either Australia or UAE. Australia should be a big favorite there. That's why we've kind of said it should be Peru and Australia. And then the Oceania winner, either New Zealand or Solomon Islands, against the 4th place team from CONCACAF. That's what's left. So the one that I think a lot of people have used for a group stage draw simulator is, what is the website here? stat2software.com/WC 2022. I've seen it all over the place, so a lot of people are using it. There's others. Let's do a random one and see what we get here. So we know pot 1 now with Qatar as the host. Brazil, Belgium, France, England, Argentina, Spain, Portugal. That's determined. There's still a little bit of wiggle room in the others. The U.S. should be in pot 2. Mexico should be in pot 2. If the CONCACAF team gets in, they'd be in pot 4 with the other playoff teams. If the winner of Peru, Australia would go into pot 4. I think likely the other pathway in Europe would go into pot 4, but that might shift around a little bit. We pretty much know where the draw is, although there's a little bit of wiggle room. So in the one I just loaded up, the U.S. is in a group with England, which is very funny. Morocco is there and Peru is there. I don't hate the group. I don't like the group. It's okay. The group of death in the randomizer I just did, what would it be? It might be group H One, because you have Belgium and the Netherlands, who are neighbors in the same group.
That's fun.
And you have Japan and Canada in that group, which could be very intriguing. The Canadians are a team you have to pay attention to in the World Cup this year for sure. The other groups quickly, Group G, Brazil, Switzerland, Serbia, Costa Rica, because in the randomizer they got in. Group F, Spain, Denmark, Senegal, Saudi Arabia. Group E, France and Germany, and then Iran and Ecuador. Group D was the one I mentioned, England, U.S., Morocco, Peru. Group C, Portugal, Mexico, Poland, Cameroon. Group B, Argentina, Croatia, South Korea, Ghana. And Group A, Qatar, Uruguay, Tunisia, and Wales is the one that gets through in their randomizer. Actually, if that ends up being the draw, that's about as even as I've ever seen a World Cup draw in terms of one group being stacked and other groups being easy. I mean, Group A, obviously, with Qatar in it, has the potential to be an easy group for somebody. Although it could get weird if you get a top team out of pot 2 and a top team out of pot 3 and a top team out of pot 4, then it's all kinds of chaos. But if that happened, I think everybody'd be pretty happy with it. You'd get first round games between the England and US. I mean, Of course, that's going to be a huge TV rating. France and Germany, Belgium and Netherlands. You get a lot of interesting storylines. Spain and Denmark have had World Cup encounters in the past. Portugal, Mexico would be a good game. I'd be down for that. Yeah, if that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. You can sit there and hit reload all you want, and you can do all you want with it and have fun with it and see what happens. But that's where we are now. People are going to be running World Cup draw simulators between now and Friday. The program starts at 11:30. I don't know when the actual draw is going to happen. It might be 5 o'clock. There's no telling with what this show is going to entail. I would assume, and just go ahead and be ready for it because this is kind of where we're at. You're going to have a lot of propaganda for the host nation. Yeah, they paid for it. They paid for it. They also paid for a lot of attention that I do not believe all of it's going to be positive. So you get what you pay for. So they'll be able to control that part of the storyline. But there's going to be a lot of reaction to it, a lot of conversation around it. And there absolutely has to be. But that's what's coming up on Friday. Now, tonight, again, your scenario, I mean, it's pretty easy for the U.S. Kick off at 9:05. You're in Costa Rica. You can lose all the way up to 5-0 and still go through as an automatic qualifier. If you lose 6-0, you go into the playoff. Depending on what Mexico does. That's assuming Mexico wins. Things get weird there, too. That's a pretty good spot to be in. It's about as good of a spot as you can be in as being here and not having your automatic spot locked up. You just approach it as any other game. You can't let any of that other stuff get in your head. They are dealing with stomach bug issues, and they've been very clear to say stomach bug, and maybe that's to stay away from anything about Mexican water, which we all have heard about. Look, the Mexican water is pretty much undefeated. So if it is that, you want to call it a stomach bug, fine. If it's an actual stomach bug and has nothing to do with the water in Mexico, okay, fine, whatever. About 30 people in the delegation have been dealing with it and still dealing with it. That's going to have an effect tonight. But how much of an effect, and that much of an effect to where you're worried about qualifying, I don't think it's there. I don't think worry should be there. If worry's within the team, then they got some serious problems. There shouldn't be worry. There shouldn't be worry in the fan base because of that cushion. Costa Rica has scored 11 goals in 13 games in World Cup qualifying. You're not dealing with a high-powered attack. They would have to score more than half of what they've scored already and not concede anything, which they have been a good defensive team. They would have to do that to get in. You should be fine. You play your game. You don't change anything. You don't sit back. You don't park a bus. You don't need to defend for 90 minutes. You just play. You, of course, adjust if things get weird, if things happen. If you give up a couple of goals, yeah, you might play a little more direct at that point. It's the final game of qualifying, and things can get weird. Pressure can mount. We saw it throughout the day yesterday with some inexplicable things because of the effects of pressure. Some giveaways that you don't expect, some bad passes, some great performances because some people rise to the occasion. Could that happen tonight? Sure. Could it happen to the point that you're worried about qualifying? I seriously doubt it. And if it does, then it's the worst collapse ever in World Cup qualifying. It's the worst. There's nothing to compare it to. Don't try to tell me that Trinidad is worse. And then no. If you don't qualify tonight, it is the worst period ever. End of story. Nothing to argue about with it. Italy looks at it and says, yeah, man, that's really bad. Like it's as bad as it gets. So don't let that happen. Just play your game. Play your game. Yeah, I mean, if they lose 1-0, if they lose 2-1, I don't care. That's fine. I'm not worried about it. Just don't put qualification at risk. That's all I care about.
And I know that a lot of folks that's the easiest thing to sit here and say. You take care of business, everything's fine. When you start to think outside of that idea of, okay, well, we need to play it safe. We need to do this, and this. That's outside of your normal DNA. That's when things can spiral and go wrong, and they can go even more wrong if you're out of character. If you take care of business, and I probably should put $1 in the jar for every one of the cliches that I use in the show tonight previewing this match. You take care of business, you do your thing, you just think about what's there in front of you. Don't step out of line and don't overthink this. And this applies for a lot of things. Don't overthink tonight. You go out there with, some folks that are probably rotated in. I don't anticipate this being the 11 that you've seen in the past 180 minutes. There's probably some changes across the board. And, we could get into starting 11s that we think down the line here before the show is over. But you look in front of you, you do what you've been doing, everything should be fine. This is not a situation where you overthink the room and outthink yourself here. Because, honestly, it is as straightforward a path as possible. And we sit there and we said, you got the ball at the 1, just run the ball. Take care of this 90 minutes. Do your thing. I know that a lot of folks, I think that Greg Berhalter had mentioned Gio Reyna was battling the stomach flu as a part of the 30 that were affected. So you don't know how many minutes Gio can give you tonight if he's having problems keeping the antibiotics down as he was in the last match. But you rotate your side a little bit, you move forward, you do your thing, you're fine. Just don't overthink the room tonight.
These things will start to happen too. Reinaldo Rueda has ceased to be Colombia's coach after they were eliminated from World Cup qualifying yesterday. Had a clause to leave immediately if they didn't qualify. Yep, that was triggered fast because, and we'll talk to Nico Moreno about it tomorrow. Rueda was terrible, like just flat out terrible. They had a horrible run, and Carlos Queiroz, who, wow, the guts on this guy. He goes to Egypt, and in the lead up to the game that they did not take care of, and they defended way too much for way too long in, Carlos Queiroz told the media, and the commentator shared it, that he's among the 10 best coaches in the world. Well, Colombia would thoroughly disagree because they ran him out of town early in qualifying because he was awful and had a couple of just shockingly bad losses that put Colombia in a hole. That Rueda, instead of actually trying to have a ladder to get out of the hole, like built a cave over the hole. It was stupid. So negative, so defensive, so conservative. But Queiroz saying he's one of the best 10 coaches in the world? Well, you had 2 different teams that you tried to get qualified, and you dug a giant hole for one, and you failed in the last step with the other. So I'm going to go with no, Carlos. I'm going to go with no on that. Good luck to you.
Safe play.
We'll see where you end up next. But, whew. So Rueda's already out in Colombia. There was a tweet put out last night from a Colombian journalist asking who fans wanted to see as the next guy. And Ricardo Gareca's name came up a lot. Marcelo Bielsa's name came up a lot. Bielsa at one point, I think, was close to taking the Colombian job back in the day. I don't know if he took Chile instead or if it was right after his time with Chile, but he was close. Didn't happen. His name will come up, and then a whole bunch of others will continue to come up. But Gareca and Bielsa seem to be the 2 that got the most buzz. What do we have on the Twitch pitch? I'll start with this one. You can pull some others in before we get to Mike Conti at 10 o'clock, and we talk some DC and Atlanta this weekend. Burned, I totally agree with you. If a U.S. player gets a red card today, they shouldn't play for the national team again. You can't do it. There's no point to it today. If you're the last man, for example, it's okay. It's okay. If it's 0-0 and it's the 60th minute and you're the last defender and a guy breaks in behind, you got to know the situation and say, yeah, I'm going to let my goalkeeper try to deal with this. It's one goal. I'm not going to miss the first game of the World Cup by being an idiot. If it is 5-0 and then that's the goal that could decide it, then yes, of course, you've got it. Then your mentality changes. But yes, you can't pick up a red card if you're a U.S. player tonight, because red cards, you'll miss the first game of the World Cup. Yellow card accumulation, if you get to that magic number, you don't miss the first game of the World Cup. But if you're Costa Rica, you do miss the playoff, because that is part of qualification. So they have a lot of players they have to be careful with. But, it's not really much of a but, because I don't think they really have much of a realistic chance in their minds of getting in. So I think they're planning for the playoff, and their lineup and substitutions will probably show you that. That's my guess. What else we got on the Twitch pitch?
Tafka is in this morning discussing CONCACAF in general.
Okay.
And Tafka says CONCACAF has gotten so much better across the board in the past 10 years. Sure, Honduras disappointed this campaign, but if you plug them directly into the World Cup qualifying table of 2009, they'd be okay, in his opinion.
Yeah, probably. Which, if you want to get into maybe which confederation has improved the most in the last decade, CONCACAF might be at the top of that list. South America's had more separation than the others. I mean, Brazil sets a record for points in their format, which they've used for a long time, the double round robin, 18 games. Brazil sets a record for points, and they got one game to go because they have to play this makeup game against Argentina because the idiot health inspector came on the field with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
That happened. I'm not exaggerating. That was all abundantly stupid. Argentina is 31 games unbeaten, longest run they've ever had, one of the longest worldwide. I think they're getting close to Italy's record. So you've had those two kind of pull away a little bit more. But then in South America, you have a pretty competitive group. I don't know if it's gotten a whole lot better. I don't think it's really gotten worse. I think the top teams have gotten better. Europe is honestly pretty much what Europe's been. You get some surprises of teams that don't qualify. You get some surprises of teams who have to go through the UEFA playoff. You get some heavyweights who have no problems. It's pretty much what it always is. Asia, pretty much what you expected. Africa's always chaos because of the format. I think it's incredibly unforgiving with the 10 teams making it to 5 spots and then having a home and away, and you can have a great group stage and then get into a tough draw and not go. And I think it's a horrible format. I hope that changes. But in terms of level, it's probably about where it's been in general across the board. I think maybe the middle and lower tier teams in Africa have improved a good bit, but not as much as some of the middle and lower tier teams in CONCACAF. And I think CONCACAF is the one that has moved up the fastest and to be more competitive. U.S. and Mexico still at the top, near the top. Canada has busted through, and now they're at the top. Costa Rica has been around a lot, but they had to fight in this time. Panama has kind of established itself right underneath the heavyweights. They ended up surprising, but then failing. Honduras and Jamaica expected to make noise. They didn't. But you're seeing even below the Ocho, you're seeing more competitive games in CONCACAF than you're used to. El Salvador has bounced back up. Guatemala's one to watch down the road. Trinidad and Tobago has always been kind of around that. Haiti has had some nice runs and Gold Cups and some good performances. So I think overall CONCACAF has improved. It's not purely down to MLS, but MLS's growth and a lot of CONCACAF players playing in MLS has definitely helped, along with all of the competitions that CONCACAF's created. You got to give the people at CONCACAF HQ credit. Once they got rid of some people who like to pocket money rather than actually make things happen, they have had a Nations League that I think is great for the lower tier teams and ended up being a great final for the top teams. But the Nations League, amazing for the development. What they're doing on the women's side, kind of mirroring some of this, very good. It's going to get better. The Champions League, growing and becoming a bigger deal. again, a lot of it's down to MLS's growth, but not purely. These are all really good things. And CONCACAF is the confederation over the last decade that has improved the most worldwide. And I think there's still a lot of room to grow.
Couple of laser pointer questions to get us to the top of the hour.
Oh, boy.
DM Tim wants to know, has throwing crap on the field gotten worse? Has it always been like this?
This kind of stuff is hard because it has always been there. I think now with social media being what it is, it's just more widely seen is maybe part of it. I don't know if the amount has increased, but it's definitely easier to find. I mean, just think about, what you have followed of African World Cup qualifiers, Asian World Cup qualifiers, South American World Cup qualifiers for a lot of you. Think of how much you followed those in the past compared to now. Now you're able to follow it so much more. So you're hearing about these things more when they happen, where they did happen in the past. I mean, you had a flare thrown on the field in World Cup qualifying for 94 in a Brazil-Chile game, and the Chilean goalkeeper took it to a whole nother level because he didn't get hit by the flare, but he actually bladed, had a razor blade somewhere near him. I don't know how you planned for this, but he did. And he bladed and made it look like he got hit with the flare. And then they have the footage and they see, oh, yeah, he did not get hit with the flare. And, oh, my God, he cut himself to try to get this game thrown out. And he got banned for life. I mean, you had stuff like that in 94 qualifying. You go further back. Whew. So it's definitely more talked about. But I do kind of have a worry that over these past couple of years, and I know some people have tried to excuse it with people, kind of losing it during the COVID times. That's not an excuse. I'm sorry. You should not be forgetting how to act in public because you aren't out in public very much for a year plus. That's not an excuse. You're still an idiot. I do think it's picked up a little bit here in the last couple of years, though, and that's got to stop.
Then the follow-up question from Coco. So what will FIFA do to prevent lasers from appearing at the World Cup?
Well, at the World Cup, I think is a different conversation. I'm not even going there because you generally do. And one thing about the hosts of the World Cup is it's not really a justice system that you want to trifle with. So I would assume that people are not going to do those things. And I would assume that the hosts of the tournament are not going to want their country to look bad in those moments. So the security to get into the venue will probably confiscate any lasers that are there. The lasers are not a widespread thing. I think that needs to be understood too. I mean, how many times in all of these World Cup qualifiers over the past month have you seen it? Twice is all I know of with Egypt and with Senegal. So it's not like that's not a huge widespread thing. I don't think they're going to be in the World Cup venues. My issue is the CAF and FIFA, because these were FIFA games. They are going to take precedent over it, but CAF has to be involved. Senegal can't host games for a period of time. Egypt can't host games for a period of time. And then with what happened in Nigeria, they can't host games for a period of time. Senegal should get the absolute worst punishment because the visiting team bus was attacked and you had the laser situation. I still think Egypt should have done more to deal with it on the field. I would have not kicked. I would have not stepped in goal if I was the goalkeeper. I would have made them deal with it. If they got to delay and empty out the stadium, yeah, do it. Whatever you got to do. I would have made them do that. But in this case, I think Senegal has to get punished severely. But I don't think it affects the actual World Cup because I don't think they're in the venues there. It's just not all that prevalent.
And then to put a bit of a bow tie on the first hour, Mazzano says penalty FIFA needs to bring down is to end of the National Team Association at the countries where the issue happened. Yes, it's unfair for the players, but they've tried to punish the fans. Things cleaned up after the SMU football debacle. Sometimes an example needs to be made.
It's not that simple, Mazzano, because of just the format of how the world game is. You can't end the federation. I do think there has to be scale. And this is where FIFA, you can blame them for not having dealt with things properly in the past. And I completely agree with you. But I don't think you go from 0 to 5,000 in this situation, which banning the federation from FIFA play for the next World Cup That's going from 0 to 5,000. And it is punishing players who had nothing to do with it. I would shy away from that. Somebody's going to get punished who didn't have anything to deal with it. I know, like, if you don't have fans in the building, that's fine. In my opinion, you don't even get to host games. It's not about playing behind closed doors. You don't get to host. You got to play them in a neutral site. And if you want that to be very severe, if you want that to be the entire CAF qualification, if they want to, pile on that with AFCON, cool. It has to affect World Cup qualifying next time too. I'm good with making it very difficult to reach a World Cup because of this behavior, but I'm not as good with banning them from the World Cup or disbanding the federation, because then that's affecting clubs, that's affecting youth, that's affecting players who play abroad, that's affecting everything. You can't do that. It just doesn't work. But can you make it difficult for them to qualify? Yeah, and you have to. And it has to be something that goes forward. It has to. All right, quickly, John, you got to tell everybody about our good friends, Eliminize.
I can do that. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, that's the only place that you need to go is Eliminize service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, they've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent those facilities that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment. We like that. We like green ways to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink, because the masking agent does exactly that. Just covers up the odor, does not attack the problem. Eliminize does that with their proven scientific formula all the way down to the molecule. Pricing easy, one of two ways, cubic by cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a solution that is affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, go to their website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are discussing Eliminize services from. So it's ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Mike Conti joining the show. What's up, Mike? Mike is here. Let me unmute Mike. What's up, Mike?
How about now?
There you go.
Okay.
Muting buttons can get a little tricky.
Pull the John, keeping my mic muted. Sorry.
Right there with you, brother.
I muted you, and maybe you couldn't unmute yourself when I muted you.
Now, I'll be honest. I was looking at my email as you unmuted me, so I'll be totally honest. That one's on me.
No, it's okay. You're a very busy man. How are things?
Good. Looking forward to popping the corks and making everything official tonight. I'm like racking my brain. Is there any way we could have the hilarity of Mexico falling into the reclassification tonight? But I don't see Honduras beating Mexico by. Well, Mexico would probably need to lose by 3 in all likelihood.
Well, then you're looking at a couple of different things.
Because here's my assumption, Jason, that Costa Rica is going to win tonight. That's my assumption. I think it would be like a win by 1 or 2.
So let's say 2. Let's say they win by 2. They go to 25. So they add. They're at +3 right now. They get to +5.
Right.
Mexico's at +7. So it's not a huge difference. Now Mexico would have the goals scored number 2 because they've got that by 4 right now. It'd have to be a 2-goal Costa Rica win and a 3-goal Honduras win,
which I don't see.
But if you scale it, if Costa Rica ends up winning 4-0, then we're having a different conversation. Does the U.S. roll over to get Mexico knocked out if Honduras is winning? Is that what you're asking? Are we going to get that crazy with it? I'm going to go with no. I don't think that's possible.
CONCACAF on the last day, completely and totally CONCACAF.
I don't think
it would be.
It'd be crazy.
It would be really funny, but no, it's probably not going to happen. And
I do remember at one point in, I guess this would have been the 14 qualification process where Sanzusi with the late goals for the U.S. opened the door for Mexico to go to the playoff when they did not play their way in. I remember talking to a good friend from another CONCACAF nation, and I mean, I was laughing about the whole thing the next day. I thought the whole thing was hilarious. And he's like, you idiots. Like, you should not have helped Mexico. They would not have qualified. You helped your greatest rival, you morons.
The enemy of the enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
losing by a larger number is pretty tough.
And in fact, I was watching it on Monday. It produced really one of my all-time favorite soccer broadcast moments.
Easy.
When the Mexican commentators were just thrashing El Tri for, having the United States have to play with dignity with their many reserves to put you, the ones who wear green do nothing for the shirt. It's the Estados Unidos, not you. And then the coach needed to put on his big boy pants and resign. Like one of really the great all-time moments in soccer broadcast.
That's a rant and a half.
The shift of emotions. You've heard this before, John. I would hope. If you haven't, I don't know how you've done this show since 2017, because I feel like I talk about it at least every couple of months because it's one of the greatest things ever. The shift of emotions from the guy, because this is Mexico TV, not like our Spanish language call here in the U.S. It's the Mexican coverage in Mexico, and they've got the split screen. And at first, when the goal happens for the U.S. and Mexico's going to get in, it's happiness because Mexico's going to get into the playoff. And then it really quickly turns to anger. Then there's another goal for the U.S. that definitely clinches it. And that's where it gets absolute fury towards the Mexican national team and the manager, Vucetich, and yelling at him to resign. It was amazing. It's one of the best things ever. I highly recommend finding that one on YouTube.
Yeah,
I've got to go back and refresh my memory for that one.
No, it's a great one. But I mean, look, it's kind of a low stress celebratory night tonight. I will be curious, if Berhalter might rotate a little bit. He would have room to here. You don't want to go in overly confident. I mean, that's where you need to be really, really careful. I mean, if you go in there and you feel like you can just roll the ball out and cruise, then I mean, you could maybe find yourself down 3-0 at halftime, and then it gets really, really, really scary.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious just to see what the approach is tonight. I think from an Atlanta United standpoint, I would maybe love to see Miles Robinson not start tonight, but the one way for sure that you're going to have a low stress evening is to throw up a clean sheet. So do you want to start your best center backs or do you want to rotate? I hope he rotates, but he might want to start as center backs. I don't know.
I think Miles Robinson has put in a lot of great work in these two games, and I think Miles Robinson has deserved himself a spot on the bench to start. I'm sure Aaron Long has been brilliant in training, and I'm sure Aaron Long is chomping at the bit to get some time on the field. And Walker Zimmerman wants to play for sure. He always wants to play. Walker's a gamer. Miles deserves a seat on the end of the bench for a long portion of this evening. I'd be fine.
Yeah, I like the way you think.
Yeah, I think he's deserved it. Aaron Long deserves that time. Let's go, Aaron Long.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I see you all on the Twitch pitch like, oh, you're calling for rotation. That means you're going to lose. I don't care.
I don't care if you lose, honestly. Just don't lose.
I literally do not care. As long as they don't lose by 5, I literally could care less.
You don't play for a loss, but you shouldn't be worried here.
Yeah, look, there's nothing to play for. Yeah. Okay, your long odds scenario to get seeded is out the window.
It can't happen.
There's nothing to play for. Get out of there. Don't get anyone hurt. Go to Qatar. Look, I would love to see the U.S. men's national team win every single fixture they play. There are bigger goals and priorities to address tonight. Mm-hmm. Get out of there. Don't get hurt. Don't do anything silly. Mm-hmm. No red cards. Right. I mean, nothing like that. You lose 3-1, fine. Mm-hmm. You're going to Qatar. It's totally fine.
Then let me posit the other half of the idea here. You mentioned Miles getting a rest. What if, just to get out to a good start, you start Miles and Walker, give them 45, then bring in Aaron Long and change your pairing for the second 45 minutes?
Yeah,
Just
you
getting
could do that too. I think that would, I mean, you guys tell me, I think that would keep the door open for Miles to play 90 in DC.
Yeah, I think 45. He has the possibility to play 90 in DC. I think the biggest question with DC, as we do start to look ahead to that, because it feels like it's been forever since we had a club match, and now we're getting back to it. Alan Franco, who had to come out in the first half or halftime of the last match. We haven't heard yet. We'll hear tomorrow where Gonzalo Pineda feels like he is. I'm sure that'll be asked of him and his media availability. Alan Franco's availability, if he's good and George Campbell's good, I'm not too worried about DC and Miles Robinson. But if Franco isn't a concern, then yeah, absolutely, I'm worried. I'd love to have Miles for DC. And I wonder if a call/request/text has been placed to say, hey,
Yo.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't think it would matter. I don't think Greg rolls like that. I really don't.
Well, nah, he has to though to some degree. You can't just ignore what's best for the place that your players play on a regular basis. You can't be that arrogant. He made a mistake in the past. I know it was 3 years ago.
He's done it before.
It was 3 years ago, and that was dumb. But that's a different level of dumb. If you have clubs who are requesting, and I'm sure there's a bunch. Like, look, it's not just going to be Atlanta. It's going to be everybody. Nashville, Red Bulls, everybody would be doing it. And you can't make everybody happy. But yeah, you do have to weigh that stuff. You do have to think about that because you want these guys to be in a good spot at their club and playing well, and you want that confidence to be very high. So that does have to factor in for Greg.
Yeah.
I just don't know what exactly his mindset will be tonight.
Yeah, and again, like I'm not trying to get into an argument here with people on the Twitch pitch. Like,
what are we arguing about?
Well, we're starting to see comments like, well, if you treat games like it's a day off, it's part of your culture, and our culture is to lose.
Nobody's saying that.
I'm not saying right.
You can rotate your team. You can play different players without going in, taking a day off. Those are two completely different things. To say to go to your bench is not taking the game seriously is incredibly disrespectful to your bench.
No, right. Now,
they're there for a reason.
Now, I did say, and I'll say it again, I don't care if they win tonight. I don't care because it doesn't matter.
Don't get hurt. No red cards. 1 and 2.
Right. There is no, like, okay, they could win and Canada could lose by 10,
17, yeah.
And you could win the octagonal,
which gets
doesn't mean anything. It doesn't get you a seed. It doesn't mean anything. You're still going into the same pot this Friday.
Yes.
It does not matter. So you've got to take a bigger picture view of all of it. It's like when you're in a 180-minute tie and you've got 3 road goals in the first leg and you're leading 3-0 on aggregate and you're going to the second leg with 3 road goals. Your objectives are different when you're in that situation.
Yes.
Especially when you're looking ahead to a final.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If it is the final, then it's maybe a little bit different. But when you're going into a final, maybe you have some players on a card tightrope. Maybe you have some players who are a little bit dinged up. The objective just changes. And, I know we've been conditioned to fear the worst with the U.S. men's national team. There's really no, I don't want to say it's impossible because anything is possible. But if you go in there with a responsible mindset that you're going to rotate a little, you're going to treat it like any other match, you're going to play pragmatically, you're not going to take too many risks, you're going to get out of there with a result that could even be a loss, and it's going to send you to the World Cup. And I'm saying, Colonel, I'm sorry if I don't get it.
Colonel,
okay?
Colonel. I also have to say this too. If you are getting upset about a 2-1 or 3-1 or 3-2 or whatever loss tonight for the U.S., if you're getting upset about it, you've lost the plot. I'm sorry. You've lost the plot. The goal is qualification. It is all but done. You assure that tonight. You take care of business. you do have to think about where these players are going to on the weekend and what they're going to do and what they're going to need to do. And if you can balance all of that, you do. You might not be able to. You might have to play somebody more minutes than you'd like because you want to take care of it tonight. But it is not win at all costs tonight. And anybody who thinks that, I'm sorry, you don't get it, because that's not what it's about tonight. It's not about going in and saying we don't care. Every time you put the shirt on and you go into a game, you care. But you can care and have some different players get the opportunity to play, as opposed to caring and it is all costs. You have to play. I don't care if you played 180 minutes. You're playing 270. No. That's not what the job is tonight. The job is to take care of business.
Nobody in November is going to remember a 3-1 loss at Costa Rica if you've won your first group stage match 2-0 over Ghana. Yeah, is Ghana even in? Maybe is Ghana in to the World Cup?
Yes, they got in yesterday, yes.
So, all right. So, if you beat Ghana 2-0 in your first group stage match, no one's thinking about what you did tonight. So and I use Ghana as an example. I mean, your group's going to be a seeded European team, probably, maybe an unseeded European or a South American team. Maybe it's a seeded South American
from pot 1, which will be Qatar, Brazil, Belgium, France, England, Argentina, Spain, or Portugal. You'll get one of them.
Okay. Right.
You'll get one of pot 3, which more than likely will be Senegal, Iran, Japan, Morocco, Serbia, Poland, South Korea, Tunisia, and one of pot 4 that, could be a lot of different people. Cameroon, Canada, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, Ghana are the most likely. Then you've got some of these playoff teams. It could be Peru. It could be Wales. It could be Scotland. It could be Ukraine.
Yeah. So let's say you're in a group with France, Poland, and Senegal. Okay. I don't care on November the 15th, going into that first group stage match against Poland or whoever, that, you lost 3-1 to Costa Rica. It literally does not matter. What I will care about is did Pulisic get a red card in Costa Rica and he can't play against Poland?
Yes.
That's what I would care about.
And I'll also care, and I think this is important, like what your result tonight, if you qualify, doesn't matter. It doesn't. I'm sorry. The result doesn't matter. If you win, if you draw, if you lose, as long as you qualify, the result doesn't matter for anything. It changes nothing. But if you play a player too many minutes in these 3 games and he gets hurt and he's out for an extended period of time, it matters. If you send a player back to their club and then they get hurt there because of overuse, it can matter. Those things matter, and those things can have long-term effects. Obviously, red cards tonight will have a long-term effect because they're missing the first game in the group stage. Those are things that matter. The result tonight, as long as you qualify, does not change anything. And I know perception, and I understand you want to be dominant and all that. I get all that. I understand that. But you don't do it at the expense of things that matter. You don't. You handle the game. And you can handle the game with rotating your entire starting lineup. You can handle the game. The Costa Rican team is entirely domestic players.
Mm-hmm.
The Costa Rican team is not coming into this win at all costs, et cetera, et cetera. They're not coming into this that way because they know their situation. You have to think about the long-term situation. You don't go out there and disrespect the shirt by not playing hard. Nobody has said that. You go out there and whoever gets the honor of wearing that shirt tonight, they have to play to the best of their ability. If they play to the best of their ability and they lose, nothing changes. But if you run guys into the ground or you get red cards or you do things like that are stupid, yes, then things have changed. There's no positive from winning tonight. There's all kinds of negatives if all these other things happen. It's quantifiable, of course, perception. I can guarantee you this. When you're in World Cup qualifying for the next time, which will not be until 2028, 6 years, nobody's going to look back at this game and tell you anything about it.
No.
If you handle your business. Nobody's going to point to it. We're not afraid of the U.S. because they went to Costa Rica in the last game where they had everything sealed up 6 years ago, and they didn't play well. We're not afraid of them. Stop.
And they still qualified for the World Cup.
Stop.
No, I mean, look, I remember, and I think we as fans, we remember those moments when a World Cup qualification is clinched. Certainly the match down in Trinidad in '89 was very, very memorable.
Yeah.
I remember in '97 up in Canada.
Yeah.
They played at Vancouver, and it wasn't at BC Place. It was an outdoor stadium in Vancouver. Yeah. And I remember that moment. That was a really big deal. And again, in 01 and 05, like they're big moments when you finally lock it all up. But I can't tell you what the score of that Canada match in 97 was. I think it might have been 2-0, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. I think it was 3.
I 3. Okay. Yeah, okay. I don't remember.
I don't remember. I'm not positive.
The moment. I remember the moment.
I remember Roy Wegerle having a very good day.
Yeah. I remember, I think Bob Lee called the match with Seamus. So. I remember it was on ESPN2. It was like between a tractor pull and drag racing.
Yeah, they threw it in because it had the opportunity to clinch with one game to go.
Right. So, I mean, again, to me, I'm more concerned about the big picture tonight. The big picture is we're going to Qatar. That's something that did not look 100% clinched even a couple months ago, really. Greg's done a good job. I know that's going to ruffle some feathers on the Twitch pitch.
I already did that all week. Don't worry about it.
I think Greg's done a good job. I think these players have done a good job. Job done. Well done. And, if we're going to criticize them in the bad times, we have to correctly give them credit in the good times. It's like Trae Young said, the praise needs to be as loud as the disrespect. And I totally think that applies to the U.S. men's national team in this situation. The praise needs to be as loud as the disrespect, particularly towards its manager. Has he done everything perfectly? Absolutely not.
No.
Not even close, but he got him there. Job done. That was his job. He did it. He accomplished it. Does he get extra credit? No, because, he didn't get a seed. That would have been kind of long odds anyway. Were they perfect in this qualifying cycle? No. Did they leave some points on the table in this cycle? Yeah, a few. Not many. A few. But you got the job done. So shout out to Greg Berhalter and respect to him.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's 90 minutes to go in the process. The U.S. has never been in this kind of a situation. I can ask the people who are worried about perception and getting a great performance tonight. Do you remember who the U.S. played? Now I know it's different because you're not officially in, but who did the U.S. play at the end of the 98 run? What did that game look like? Nobody really talks about it.
Nobody or in
World Cup qualifying. In qualifying, like you clinched it with a game to go.
I don't even no idea.
Exactly.
I think it might have been Costa Rica.
No, it wasn't. That happened another time. It was at Foxborough. It was El Salvador because the reason I remember it is John Harkes and I think Wegerle got calls from people asking the U.S. to throw the game. And it was a controversy worldwide because of that. It didn't happen.
And they were already in.
U.S. was already in.
Yeah.
2010, if I remember correctly, the last game, I think that was the one down in Costa Rica after they'd qualified. It might have been 2006, but they played a game in Costa Rica after they'd already clinched, and it didn't matter, and you ran out a bunch of different guys. Now, this is different because you're not clinched, but you almost basically are because of the goal-scoring margin. So you got to handle it a little differently. You can't just throw out guys willy-nilly. But you're also not blowing guys out in terms of overuse and any of that either. It does give you an opportunity to look at how somebody might fit with somewhat of a first team group. It is big picture time. So maybe because we haven't been in this situation, other countries have. Look at what Argentina and Brazil have done with qualifying these past few games. Argentina looking ahead. They qualified a while back. They're not worried about, we didn't win in Ecuador. They fire everybody. They're ruining our perception. No, they're looking at Julian Alvarez. Is he somebody who can fit and help me in Qatar? Is Lucas Martinez Cuarta? Is he somebody who can play in Qatar? Let's see how they look with a mix of first team guys. Cool.
What does everybody think Canada is going to do tonight, by the way?
They might still be hung over on Molson's.
Right. Like, is Canada going to go full first choice and just play pedal to the metal for 90 minutes with literally nothing to play for? Like, their
Panama with
manager,
nothing to play for.
right? Yeah.
Panama, it can't touch anything. Panama has zero.
Nobody cares about Panama. Yeah. It doesn't matter. But does Canada have to protect their reputation tonight? No, I don't think they really. I don't think they care.
I strongly doubt anyone up there is saying that.
No, and they're in a different situation too, because they're the first time in a long time, so everything's gravy. It's always gravy in Canada. We know that.
True.
Yes. But it's it's all different situations. There's probably a lot of residual PTSD from Trinidad and Tobago. I get that. There's just the general vibe of it hasn't been good enough, which I think is unfair. There's a lot of things at play that are coloring perceptions, which is where we're at right now, about what the U.S. should do tonight. What they should do is not lose by 6 goals. That's what they should do. If they don't do that, everything is fine, and there is nothing to worry about. Exactly. You handle it, and this is a group that can handle it. I think they showed a lot in these last 2 games. I thought Greg was risky in Mexico. Nope, he knew the pulse of his team. He got a result there, played their best game in Mexico ever, had chances to win it, then took care of business early against Panama. Early. Didn't leave it to late. Early. They came out a house of fire. He knows what he's doing. He's got it, and he's going to take care of it tonight.
There is nothing unjust about the way this table will look at the end of tonight. Canada has been the best team in the cycle. Canada's been the best team. I think USA has clearly been the second best. But Canada has been clearly better than USA, as proven with their on-field results. I think USA has clearly been better than Mexico. I really believe that.
I agree.
And I think there's proof in the on-field results in Cincinnati and what happened at the Azteca. The U.S. was the better side at the Azteca. Mexico has been, I think, a little better than Costa Rica. Now, it could end tonight. It could.
They have been, yeah.
It could possibly end with Mexico 2, USA 3, but I mean, you're talking about the difference of a point. I think Canada goes in to the World Cup as the team that played the best in the cycle in the Confederation.
And they're in pot 4. They're not getting to pot 2 because of doing that. They're in pot 4 in World Cup in the World Cup draw because of where they've been previously.
Right. Which is why I know a lot of people don't like the FIFA World Rankings and all of that, but I think that's a demonstration that the FIFA World Rankings actually kind of work.
Yeah.
You do have to take into account not just how a team is playing over the course of 18 months, but where the foundation was before that. I mean, there have been glitches in the FIFA World Ranking. Like, wasn't USA 2 or 3 in the FIFA World Rankings back in like 99, 2000, something like that? Like, wasn't there some kind of, and help me on the Twitch pitch, I feel like there was a FIFA World Ranking glitch where the USA got way, 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 way up there at a time where it was odd.
It wasn't a glitch. They've modified the system. This was in kind of the early days. They were very highly ranked going into 06, and
that was it. Yeah.
Probably. I mean, they kind of earned that spot, to be honest, because you're talking about a quarterfinalist from the previous World Cup. They had won one of the Gold Cups in between 2002 and 2006. They had won a number of games. They had a very good qualification run going to 06. They qualified with, I think, 3 games to spare. So, yeah, I mean, they were probably, based on the system at that time, it wasn't a glitch. It's just maybe it didn't rank things as well as they do now in terms of like friendly wins. I think friendly wins might have been more overranked at that time as opposed to now. But the U.S., Czech Republic, and Italy, I think were all top 10 going into 2006, and they were in the same group.
Yeah, well, yeah, we got the group of death that year. That was inhumane. I want to read Johannes's comment, by the way. Yes. He said, Germany has qualified for every World Cup and Euros since 1972. And I've never once wondered back who they played in qualifying. I barely remember who they played in this qualifying cycle. Once the team is qualified, I flush that out of my system immediately. And I just could not agree more with that.
And Germany had to sweat a little bit early on, if you go back and remember.
Little bit, but I could not agree more with that from Johannes.
Yep.
And again, I think what happened 4 years ago just drives that point home.
Yep.
So
it does.
We're there. Let's celebrate tonight. Let's not turn this into narratives about Greg and, playing for the shirt and win at all costs and being bloodthirsty and all that. Like, let's celebrate the accomplishment tonight. And then you put your head down and you start to look ahead. I'm actually really intrigued by this report that Argentina could be coming up here for a friendly.
Yeah, I might be finding a plane ticket to that. I'm not going to lie. I don't like friendlies in general. No, they haven't said anything. But
yeah,
but the chance
tell you
for the last time out.
I've already carved out I can make this happen if the date works for me.
I'm just saying there is a Major League Soccer market that has a lot of Argentine players that one of whom might get on that roster for a friendly.
Yeah.
It's MLS market, big city, hub airport would draw really well.
Hey, I know the consul general of that country, Mike. I know the consul general who's in that city too. Maybe we should talk to him when he comes out to our Soccer Down Here live show next Thursday.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I can think of a local radio station that would be very interested in broadcasting that for a nominal fee.
I think
just saying, I'm telling you, if they did that, they'd fill the stadium, all three levels. That's right. They would fill. If that. And look, I've heard no rumors about that whatsoever.
No, there's no rumors about Atlanta.
But the conjecture that we have just put out, and the suppositions that we have just put out, make a lot of sense.
Bring it. Yes.
Here's the reality. I mean, if the reports are starting to leak, they've probably already identified a venue.
They have,
and I have not heard anything about Atlanta being that venue. So
I'm surprised.
Byrne brings up a good point too. Like, I don't think Argentina would play on turf. You would have to bring in a natural surface, and it might not be worth it. But
you'd make that money back.
Oh yeah,
I think you would. I think you'd draw 73,000 for that.
For Lionel Messi in Atlanta, yes, you would. Yes, you would.
Well, and what if look, I don't think it's a far-fetched idea. Is he going to be playing with Almada? Yeah, I don't think that's totally far-fetched if you're going to have a friendly in Atlanta that you might put Almada on that team.
Not at all. Not at all.
Spitballing. If it ends up happening, this is where it started.
Yes. The lobbying efforts will start immediately when the show's over. But yeah, if that happens, wherever that game happens, there's a good chance I will be.
Honestly, I mean, Dolphin State or Hard Rock, whatever it's called, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I'm in. Wherever it happens, I'm going to try to do it depending on the schedule. All right, before you go, Mike, because we're going to talk a lot about Atlanta, DC today on stoppage time at 2:00. We'll get deep into it. But the World Cup draw simulators are out.
Mm-hmm.
You can press a button and have the World Cup draw simulated for you. We did one earlier that put the U.S. and England in a group together, which I don't hate. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Let's see what you get before you leave. So
can I pick my own, or is it absolutely random?
No, I just did the simulation. I just clicked the button.
Punched the button.
Oh, Mike, you might have bad luck.
Uh-oh.
You got us into the group of death.
You got us into.
It's your fault, Mike.
Your simulator, sir.
The average ranking is the highest in Group H in the simulation I just did, which would put the U.S. into a group with Brazil, Serbia, and Cameroon.
You could be second in that group.
You could. You absolutely could.
I think they could absolutely be second in that group. It's weird. I just ran a randomizer here at the radio station, and I got Qatar, Iran, and Ghana.
But what you don't want, if you're in the Qatari group, what you don't want is to be the first match out of the blocks.
It's not that. That's not that big of a deal, John. Not that big of a deal. You'd like extra time, but to prepare. But if I get that group, if I get the group Mike just drew, and maybe it's as simulated as it was Qatar winning the World Cup in the first place, because that sounds like it's fixed.
Oof.
If I get that group, you can play first game. I don't care if it's Qatar, Iran, and who else?
Ghana.
Yeah, I'm taking that in a heartbeat.
take it
I
and
get that
run.
group.
And by the way, your suspicion was correct. It was fixed.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I just picked that on purpose. In actuality, I got France, Japan, and Saudi Arabia, which honestly, I think Japan is. It's not bad, but I think Japan is one of my dark horses this year. So we'll have to see. There's a long way to go between now and then. Obviously,
I'm not sold on them being a dark horse just yet, but there is a lot of time for that to change. They had a couple slip ups in qualifying that surprised me. We'll see. It's going to be a wild ride between now and the end of the game tonight, which shouldn't be a wild ride, but I'm sure the Bird app will make it one. And then Friday, the actual draw, which will probably be a wild ride because it'll take 10 hours to do. And
multiple
we'll
music.
What time is the draw? What time is the draw?
11:30 is the presentation start. I have no idea when the actual draw is.
5:45 will be when the draw happens.
Yeah.
Is the bat signal going up for that one?
It somewhat depends on travel times and plans.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I forgot. Yes.
I think it will be a recap of the draw as opposed to a watch along of the draw.
Yeah.
A watch along would be a lot of fun. Like when
it could get ridiculous.
I don't know what celebrities they have lined up. They usually have like a really random assortment of like now to draw pot 2, here's
the Serbian winner of the Eurovision contest.
No. It's even more random than that. It's like, please welcome Brooke Shields and Little Yachty or something like that. Like,
I hope FIFA knows who Little Yachty is.
I would hope that. Well, here's the thing. For 26, we've got to do what we did in 94 and go back to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I don't know, have Pat Sajak or someone host it. And, just lean all into the like that was the one thing in 94 that they absolutely nailed. Yeah. Going to Vegas and really kind of glitzing it up with Luck Be a Lady and everything like that. So, but the draw shows are always like so cringe awkward that it would be kind of fun to do a watch along if we could, but maybe 4 years from now.
Yeah, maybe next time. We'll see where that goes. Well, we've got a lot since we didn't really get into Atlanta and DC. We got lots of material for stoppage time today.
Yes, we do. 2 p.m. on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. Looking forward to, and on Twitch. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Mike, talk to you then.
See you guys.
Be good, Mike.
All right. That will do it for that. Mike got us a horrible draw and my World Cup 2022 group stage draw simulator. The group of death, according to the average ranking. I don't like it.
Blame Mike.
The other groups, you get Argentina and Germany in a group, which they're with Iran and Ghana, but Argentina and Germany in a group together. Iran and Ghana bring that average ranking down quite a bit. That's the thing that is tricky about this when you look at some of the teams in pot 2. I know obviously a lot of looks at the United States being there here in this neck of the woods, but you got the Dutch in pot 2. You've got Germany in pot 2. You've got Uruguay in pot 2. And look, the Uruguayans are a little bit older, but you saw Luis Suarez get on his bike last night. You got Edinson Cavani with one more World Cup in him. I don't want to face them with spots on the line at all. That's in pot 2. Pot 3, Japan is a team you got to look at. Senegal is a team you got to look at. Poland is a team you got to look at. Those are teams that I would not want. And in pot 4, I don't want anything to do with Ecuador. From a U.S. perspective, you can't be drawn with Canada, but I wouldn't want anything to do with Ecuador out of that group. I wouldn't want anything to do with... I think the others are okay. It's pot 4 for a reason. Ecuador, I think, is really on the rise. If it's U.S. Peru, I think you're okay there. If it's U.S. and Ghana or Saudi Arabia or Cameroon, I think you're all right there. If it's U.S. and Ukraine or Scotland or Wales, I think you're okay there. You should expect to be okay there. If it's Australia, you should be all right. I think you'll be okay with the pot 4 team outside of Ecuador. The others, you could get some landmines. You could definitely get some landmines, and not just on the FIFA ranking. You could get some landmines just because of some teams that you don't want to see in that situation. I don't want to see Robert Lewandowski on the other side of the field in that situation. So Sadio Mane, I don't want to see him on the other side of the field in that situation. There's a lot of stuff there. Some other things on the board before we finish up with a few more questions. The rumor and innuendo front. Adama Traore looks to be staying at Barcelona, although Tottenham are interested. They might have to wait till the summer to really know where that's going to go. Barcelona trying to re-sign Usman Dembele. If they do, they're not going to go get Rafinha from Leeds, even though there's been agreements that they have agreed to personal terms. They have not agreed to a transfer. They're going to try to keep Dembele first. They're not going to bring Rafinha if they keep Dembele. If they keep Dembele, then they're going to keep Traore as the rotation piece in that. If they don't keep Traore, then Tottenham's interested. So keep that flow chart in mind. Darwin Nunez from Benfica and the Uruguayan national team is a target for Tottenham. There's been a wide range of reports. John, you posted, I think it was Sky, who had something about like 120 million pounds would have been the minimum. In Portugal, they're saying 67 million pounds. Maybe the things got mistranslated for the folks at Sky. I don't know, but 120 something for Darwin Nunez at 22. Nah, I'm not buying that. 80 million euro, 67 million pounds, going up from there. Yeah, a little bit from there I can see.
Yeah.
But beyond that, that's crazy. This also feels crazy from the Daily Express. Maurizio Sarri at Lazio plotting to take advantage of the ongoing turmoil at Chelsea by making a move to sign Kepa. Do you remember how things ended with Kepa and Sarri?
I was gonna say that didn't seem to end a whole lot well.
Whoever came up with that report in Italy was drunk. No. That's not happening. Speaking of Chelsea, Timo Werner, according to reports in Germany, has set things in motion with his agent to leave Chelsea. Chelsea's not going to stand in his way. They want at least 40 million euro. That's a loss on what they paid for him. That's a reasonable number for what he's been. He's not going to be at Chelsea next year, I don't think. Bayer Leverkusen, their CEO, Fernando Carro, has said that they will not sell Patrick Schick. There's no need to talk about that at all. We are very happy that he is with us, and we firmly count on him for the next few years. That could be a little bit of, hey, if you're going to be interested, you better come with a giant check. I think it's legit. I think it's, they're one of the clubs, and there's quite a few that just aren't in a need to sell. And if they want to be successful on the field, they're going to have to keep guys like this. So unless somebody comes in with a stupid offer, and it'd have to be really stupid because I'm sure there's a price that they would sell, they're good. They're good. They don't have to push him on. Dortmund and Haaland is a different conversation because of where Haaland is and how much interest he's going to generate and who his agent is, who is going to manufacture something, because that was the plan all along. Although Haaland was pulled from his national team game yesterday, halftime, they said it was precautionary. He'd been kicked a bunch in the ankle. He wanted to continue. Manager pulled him. Of course, that set off alarm bells in Dortmund, where Haaland has been injured a lot this season. Paul Pogba, he's going to have to take a significant pay cut if he wants to go to Juve this summer. No shock there. Juve's not loaded with the cash these days. Ajax, their technical manager, technical director, they want to keep Erik ten Hag. Conceded the Dutch club know how the world works when it comes to Manchester United's interest. Okay, I want Manchester United to just hire somebody. I'm tired of the Daily Mirror and other tabloids to just keep coming up with it's this. No, he's offended because they didn't offer him a contract on the spot. No, it's not going to be him. It's going to be Pochettino. No, it should be this guy. Here comes pundit number 542. No, it should be Roberto Mancini. No, it should be over here. No, it should be Lopetegui. It should be. Shut up. Just hire somebody in this madness. Same with Pogba. Just get it done. Carlo Ancelotti has tested positive for COVID, Real Madrid announced today. Good health, not worried about anything beyond the fact that he's not available currently to be on the touchline. I believe his son will take over this weekend. Question is next week, where they have UEFA Champions League. And they have Chelsea. And Carlo Ancelotti might not be available for that. England got things going yesterday, John, with your beloved England section of the show. 3-0 over Ivory Coast in a friendly, but Harry Maguire's name was booed vociferously when he was announced in the starting lineup, and Gareth Southgate called that a joke. Harry Kane came out about it on Twitter. Many others did as well. Southgate, quote, "I thought the reception was a joke, an absolute joke. What he's done for us and the way he has performed for England has been phenomenal. I don't get it. I agree with Gareth Southgate.
Yep.
I think Harry Maguire's had some bad form with Manchester United. I think they paid too much for him. None of that matters when he puts on the national team shirt. And booing a player at the announcement of their inclusion in the starting lineup is not really going to help your team at all. I think it's awful. And I hate that this is where discourse is about anything in the world, about anything. It's embarrassing. It's a bad look. And Southgate blasted it. Others blasted it. Good. They should. They should, because it's not acceptable. And I have no problem with them criticizing the fans for that. No problem at all. What else is going on in England?
Oh, what else? It looks like that Premier League clubs are going to be voting tomorrow, and they might be agreeing to 5 substitutes being permitted next season, courtesy of our friend Martin Ziegler. Voted on again by the top flight clubs at a Premier League stakeholders meeting in London trying to do it over the last couple of seasons, where they voted no. A lot of the bigger clubs are in favor of 5 subs. The ones who would be voting against would be the ones mid-table or lower table, because they think that they think it would give an advantage to the squads that have greater strength in depth. PL is
that's stupid.
Basically, yes. And the Premier League is the only major league in Europe to restrict the number to 3. But sources say, according to Ziegler, high confidence that there is now enough support to get it to 5. It's about time.
Everybody else in the world has done this, but because Burnley doesn't like it, you're not going to do it. Shut up.
Sean Dyche doesn't like 5 subs.
He likes walking in the snow in his shirt sleeves as well. Because
uphill both ways. Yeah. Whatever. Get to 5 subs. Get it over with. It's taken entirely too long for you to come to this decision.
Anything else in England, John?
No, I think that's plenty.
That's plenty. Okay. Then we'll get back to the questions as we wrap up. Again, stoppage time, 2:00. You want Atlanta United, DC United talk. Mike and I will get deep into that today. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more U.S. men's national team and probably upset some people. That's what we do around here. But we will talk Atlanta and DC, what to look for lineup-wise, what to look for from DC, players to watch, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That'll be at 2:00. Facebook.com/929thegame, and it will stay there. It will be archived there. You can also watch it live on Twitch, twitch.tv/stoppage time929. It will not be archived on Twitch. So that's where it stands.
On the Twitch pitch, we do have a couple of little knick-knacky news and notes to finish up the show.
Knick-knacky, you say?
Knick-knacky news and notes to finish up the show. But
okay.
On the Twitch pitch, Coco about tonight. Coco would love to see the same mentality as the Panama match. Blitz them early and slam the door.
Yeah, that'd be fine. And I think where maybe people are confusing mentality with lineup, they're not the same thing. I think whoever is on the field today, be aggressive early. Play the game the U.S. has played throughout the qualifiers. Like, try to get on them early. Try to get an early goal. Play smart. But you can do that with any player that's been selected to the roster. It doesn't have to be the players who have started the most games, and that's it. So the mentality shouldn't change no matter who's in the lineup, and I hope it doesn't. I'm with you, Coco. I think Panama game is a prime example of it. Now, the question will be, how aggressive is Costa Rica going to be to start this? Because, again, I don't think their mentality is they're going to come in and win by 6. I think their mentality is, look, we got a playoff coming up, and we got to be smart about that. We don't want to risk anybody. You'll see when their lineup comes out an hour before what approach they take. But I don't think they're super aggressive. Panama had to be more aggressive. You could catch them on the break a little bit more. Costa Rica might be pretty vanilla here. And if they are, then you just play. You just play. I mean, you kind of come in and see where the game's going to go. Be aggressive early if you can, if it's on. Don't be reckless. But some of this is going to be down to how Costa Rica approaches it. And I'm not convinced they come out loaded for bear or anything. I think they come out and are pretty simple and pretty basic.
Because don't they have like 72 players right now that are on one more yellow, and then they would have to sit out the playoff match?
Yes, and they're not going to risk any of their important ones that could get a yellow and miss the playoff match, in my opinion. Because, again, I think this is the important separation. You get a red card tonight, you're suspended for the next game. If you are in yellow card jeopardy and you get another yellow card, and you would be suspended for the next game on yellow card accumulation, That only applies to the playoff. That would not apply if you advance to the World Cup automatically. You're not going to miss a group stage game due to yellow card accumulation. You would miss a qualifying playoff because it's part of qualifying.
Burns says if somebody gets a red card today, they shouldn't play for the national team again. It's the one thing you can't do in a knockout game ever.
Were you here in the first hour of the show, John?
I believe I was.
No, you weren't. We covered that one. I
Well, then we covered that one. Have you thought about your starting 11 for the match tonight? I
don't want to make people mad. Let's see. I will give you one really quickly.
Well, then let me go with individual positions, unless you think.
No. We can work through it. It's the same process. I'm going to go back to the Panama game. Gio Reyna's not starting if he is still having stomach issues. I'm not starting him. I will give Ethan Horvath the game. I don't think Zach Steffen's been great. I think he's been a little rusty, which is kind of honestly understood because of the time off that he's had and not playing a ton of games. So I'll give Horvath the game. Backline, you brought Shaq Moore over kind of last minute. If he's gung-ho and wants to go, I'm giving him the game. That's fine. I'm not going to get crazy and give it to James Sands at right back, which isn't as comfortable. I'm not going to change the shape. I mean, you could go to like a 3-4-3, which turns into a 5-4-1 when you need to. I'm not going to do that in my lineup. I'll keep Shaq on the right. Honestly, with Zimmerman and Robinson, you've got Long, you've got Palmer Brown. Long, I don't need to see as much. I know we talked about it earlier, but I don't need to see him. You kind of know who he is at this point. Eric Palmer Brown is somebody that you kind of do want to see. I'm going to talk to Zimmerman and Robinson, two of my leaders, and really get their temperature on what they want to do here. Do they want to start and then have Palmer Brown play 45? Do they want to trade off and maybe have one of them play 45, the other play the other 45, and Palmer Brown go for 90? I want to see Palmer Brown. I want to see if he's somebody I can count on going forward. Left side, you brought Bello in. You haven't played him. He's not as likely to start on the weekend at club level. I would start him here. Midfield, Tyler Adams has played a lot. He's not going to play a ton at Leipzig, so it's really down to where his fitness is. You have James Sands who can play in that role. You have Kellen Acosta who can play in that role. Tyler maybe not as counted on at the club level. You wouldn't mind giving him a good 45 to 60 here, but it just depends on where he is fitness-wise. I'd like to see Luca De La Torre again. I'd like to see more from him. Yunus Musa, I would probably go with an Acosta or a Roldan. Roldan hasn't played in these games. I wouldn't mind giving him an opportunity here. Not going to hurt you in this game. If Musa needs the time off, start Roldan. Maybe Musa comes in off the bench. So I'll go midfield of Adams, assuming that all is good, but I'm going to pull him in the second half. De La Torre and Roldan. And then up front, man, I'd like to get Pepe going. I really would. I'd like to see Pefok do better too, but I think Pepe's more important. So I'm going to start Pepe. And on either side, Jordan Morris, Paul Areola, have Pulisic off the bench. Kind of where I'm thinking. The other name that, as I look through it, that I wouldn't mind seeing today is Gianluca Busio. So I could work him into the midfield as a starter or get him 45. I think it's a game where you'll see rotation at halftime and at the 60-minute mark either way. If you start with a strong group and then you rotate people in to finish, or you start with a more rotated group and you rotate starters into finish, I think you'll see more halftime and 60-minute subs than you normally do. That's where I'm at.
Burns says, are you telling me Bello, Long, Zimmerman, and Yedlin are worse than Calvo and the other Costa Rica defenders? U.S. should play for the win tonight, but the reserves can do that against an inferior team.
Exactly. You play for the win because you're playing the match. You play for the win. That doesn't change. That should never change. That shouldn't change if it's a friendly, if it's something else. It doesn't matter. But your quality of the lineup, yeah, you can give some guys an opportunity here. Costa Rica's lineup against El Salvador, mostly domestic. They did have a couple of guys in from MLS. Let me pull up their lineup really quick. So Waston from back in the day, Keylor Navas, Calvo. Joel Campbell probably going to sit. Calvo's probably going to sit because he's in yellow card jeopardy. Oviedo is in yellow card jeopardy. He's probably going to sit. Celso Borges is in yellow card jeopardy. He's probably going to sit. All those guys started against El Salvador. You go to the bench for those guys. Brian Ruiz is in trouble. You're probably not going to play him because you desperately need somebody with his quality in a playoff game. You're going to guys who are going to be players in the Costa Rican First Division. That's who you're probably going to see a lot of tonight. It's not a bad league, but it's not as high of a level as the guys that the U.S. can turn to from their bench. So, yeah, you can still play to win and rotate your team. The play to win part isn't understood, and I don't know why it is being associated that play to win and rotate your team are two completely different things. No, you're always playing to win, but you can rotate your team because of the situation you're in, and you should. And however you want to do it. If you want to start strong, rotate more at halftime, 60-minute mark, cool. If you want to start with more rotation and have guys available if you need them at halftime or at the 60-minute mark to finish, okay. I'm good with that. Either way you want to go, I'm fine with it. But no, you don't have to play your first choice group for 90 minutes here, and you should not. That would be foolish.
Ricky wanted to be reminded what simulator you were using.
The simulator that I liked the best was Stat2 Software, StatTOsoftware.com/WC 2022. That's the one that I have used. And we'll see what Ricky gets us really quick. Ricky, since he wanted to see it, Ricky puts the U.S. into the weakest group, according to the ranking points, in Group A with Qatar, with Serbia, and with Ghana.
Okay.
Ricky put Mexico in with Brazil and Poland.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well done, Ricky. Nicely done. So it's StatTO software?
Yes.
Okay.
StatTO software.com
Okay.
/WC 2022.
Okay. Because that was after the slash was where I was having problems. And I was trying to figure out where it was because I did WCQ and it didn't give it to me. Storm Chaser Kevin, has there been any announcement on how host qualifying will be in 26, and are all three countries automatic?
There has not been an announcement. I think it's an assumption that there will be because 26 will be an expanded World Cup with 48 teams. So there should be 6 teams out of CONCACAF. If 3 of them are the host teams that get in automatically, that's the way I would expect it to go. They've got there's no reason to not do it. Now, the question would be, do they still participate in qualifying even if their spots are already booked and the games don't matter to qualify, but you're getting competitive games? I could see that happen. I could see the U.S., Mexico, and Canada lobbying for that to happen because they need the games, because you're not going to find friendlies in all these spots because everybody's trying to qualify. So I could see something like that. Like they dumped Qatar into different places with UEFA Nations League and this and that and got them games to get ready. That's what they'll have to figure out. But it's widely assumed that the U.S., Mexico, and Canada will be automatic qualifiers for 26, because if they are not separate in that they normally have one host spot automatically qualified, they'll just come out of CONCACAF's allotment. That's my assumption.
And news out of Edmonton yesterday that was a part of this. Government of Alberta is going to provide financial support to the city of Edmonton in their efforts to host matches as a part of 26. Minister of Culture wrote the mayor committing the World Cup funding, including $110 million in government services. Province said the support was subject to the following conditions: confirmation of federal and municipal funding for the bid, acknowledgement and acceptance of the province's letters of assurance as presented to the city of Edmonton in response to the FIFA government guarantees, confirmation the city of Edmonton is assured to host at least 5 games by FIFA if accepted as a host city, and that at least 2 of these 5 are in the round of 32 or round of 16 knockout. Confirmation.
I don't know if you're going to get that, Edmonton.
Confirmation, unforeseen security cost, responsibility of the city and the federal government, and an allocation of 1/3 of the seating allocated to the city of Edmonton.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to get a round of 16 game Edmonton. I like your attempt there, but I don't think that's going to happen. There's 8 round of 16 games, then 4 quarterfinals, then 2 semifinals, then a final and a third place. You can work backwards to that, and I don't see it. I think a lot of people had it projected that Canada and Mexico were not going to get games past the round of 32. And if anybody in those countries are going to get it, they're probably all going to be ahead of Edmonton. No offense. But you talk travel, you talk distance, you talk size of the city. I don't see Edmonton getting a round of 16. They could get around to 32. I don't think they get it around to 16. So if that's their conditions, then I don't know if they get it.
In the gossip, rumor, and innuendo part, you had mentioned Kepa and Sadi possibly reuniting. And Alex Bassine was asking, I keep seeing rumors of Kepa to Newcastle. Is Kepa really better than Martin Dubravka?
Yes, I think he is. Kepa did not. I mean, Kepa was purchased for an amount because he's very good. Is he that good? He's shown it at times. I think he's better than Dubravka. I think Dubravka is good, but and this is where you get into it. Like, if your question, Alex, is he better than Dubravka? Yes. Do you need to spend the money to upgrade, and how much of an upgrade is it, where you might need to spend that money in other places? I think it's the latter. You need to spend other places. You can be fine with Dubravka and put the money that you would have to spend to get Kepa into other parts of the team. That's the way I would go. But strictly, is he an upgrade? Yeah, I think he's an upgrade. I just don't know if he's a necessary upgrade for the rest of the team.
Programming note from Bernd. He says today at 12:45, Barcelona Femení hosts Real Madrid at the sold-out Camp Nou in Women's Champions League return leg. That's going to be a fun environment.
Yes, and you can watch that on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, because I think traditionally they've been on YouTube.
I believe they have. I'm sure you can watch that a few places, but I think YouTube, Paramount Plus might have that one. I'm not 100% positive of that. But yeah, that should be a good one. Real Madrid actually played them pretty well in the first leg. Barcelona came back and won it. Barcelona should dominate here, but it's a big game. So Barcelona's women's team is just a lot of fun to watch. You talk about maybe the purest form of what you know of Barcelona's philosophy to be, and the women's team might be the purest form of that right now. Incredible talent, really fun style to watch. Putellas is one of the best players in the world. Just an amazing player. So yeah, check that out. Lieke Martens is another player for Barcelona that I've always liked. Should be a really good one to watch, but it might not be competitive for all that long. That would be the only question mark to it, but try to tune into that. Check. I think it is Paramount Plus. At least they have the option to it. I don't know if they're putting it up.
Tafka's asking, has FIFA announced officially, or is there any uncertainty to how big rosters are allowed to be for the World Cup this year, with COVID still being a thing to deal with? A slightly increased roster has major benefits. 26, perhaps?
I believe 26 has been thrown around, but I don't know if it's official. DAZN has the game today, and I think YouTube is also a place you can get it, but I don't know if it's geo-blocked there. 26 has been thrown around, but I don't know if that has been made official by FIFA. There's so much of this stuff, and at times it's so hard to follow because of the maybe rush to report in some places, that I know it's been talked about expanding it to 26. I don't think it's been made official yet, but I would expect that it will be, just to be safe with potential for COVID. And I don't have a problem with going to 26 in general. I mean, you're still going to have your game day roster be the same. You're going to have guys who don't dress out, but it kind of eliminates the need, in my mind, for having the ability to replace a guy before you play your first game in your team if they get injured in the days preceding your first game, et cetera. So just make it 26, and it's 26, and that's it, period. I'd be fine with that going forward.
And I will ask for resubmissions for questions that may have been missed before we go. The odds and ends on the news front. Earlier in the show, Michelle Kang was officially announced as the new majority owner of the Washington Spirit, closing the $35 million deal. Makes her the first woman of color to own a controlling stake in a National Women's Soccer League team. Molly Hensley Clancy has a big article over at the Washington Post. According to Bob Williams, due to the drop in COVID-19 restrictions in Bavaria, Bayern Munich will play in front of a full Allianz Arena April 9th when they host Augsburg. And good news out of the USL Championship. Mr. Hattrick, Jackson Conway, USL Championship Player of the Week this week. So good stuff for Atlanta United too with their big win on the weekend.
Yeah, no surprise that Jackson was going to be that guy with a hat trick. A few other really good performances around the league, but Conway gets it. Great to see his performance on the weekend. It's one that you have to continue to build on. And the Twos will be on the road this weekend. They are in Hartford, correct?
Correct. 7:00 start up in Hartford on ESPN Plus.
Yes. So you need a big performance from him to back up a big performance. That's always the challenge for a young player is one time, sure, it's good. And he's had some of these. He's had some big performances in USL Championship before. All right, what's the next game like? That's what needs to happen for him. But it's been, I thought it was kind of getting close for him as the season has gone on. His performances have been better and better and more complete, and he gets the reward for it here. Now that work has to continue to increase, and I hope that it does. I hope he gets another team of the week kind of performance on a Saturday night.
Yep, and Jonathan Vijal, I hope got some consideration, didn't make it onto the bench or anything like that with his 2 assists, but there were
I don't think they do a bench for USL Championship Team of the Week.
And I know that on the Western Conference, you had a lot of 3-2 matches, a lot of goals out there, and a lot of folks that were very, very proficient in their offense. And so you had a lot of folks make it from forwards and midfielders that put the ball in the back of the net last week for the Team of the Week for USL Championship.
Yep. Any further questions?
Nope. We are good to go. Although Byrne does have advice on catching games on YouTube. He says he goes to YouTube on his Fire Stick, pops right up as a live event, not geo-blocked. And
well, there you go.
Watch
I think they might. I think, and I don't think that's a trick. I think YouTube for these might have changed to not be geo-blocked, if I remember correctly. It's been a little bit hard to follow because I think they separated. They kind of did, but they gave an option of the Women's Champions League from the Men's Champions League rights because I thought Paramount Plus had some of this before at different points, but I guess not consistently. So I don't know if there is obviously if you're pulling up on YouTube, it's not being geo-blocked. I think there is not an exclusive outlet for these. So YouTube can do it here. YouTube for most of these kinds of competitions becomes the backup in places that don't have an exclusive option or don't have the rights sold. And it's not geo-blocked there. If the rights are sold to somebody, then it gets blocked in that country. And I guess these are not claimed yet. Last bit of news from me before we go. We talked about this after the Euro final last summer. Marcus Rashford was racially abused on social media, and a 19-year-old man in England has been sentenced to 6 weeks in jail for racially abusing him. I don't know what the penalties are or could be or any of that. I don't know if 6 weeks is enough. I hope if he does it again, it's a whole lot more. But the fact that this is public and he's been announced, and hopefully he's got a lot of time in his life to not be an idiot going further. We'll see. We'll see. But this stuff is continuing as well. Monterey Bay Union had to issue a statement about it. Canadian Federation had to issue a statement about it, about Mark Anthony Kaye, which is absurd that anybody would go after him from Canada after what they've done. It's going to continue. But when it continues, and we talk about it, and we will, because it needs to be pointed out, we're also going to talk about these things when they happen too, because the punishments have to be there. And they have to be talked about. It can't just be like, oh, this happened, and then it's all like quietly, whatever is dealt with is dealt with. No, I want to know when somebody runs out into the field to punch an opposing team's player, I want to know that person goes to jail and got their tickets revoked and isn't allowed to go to games for 5 years. Somebody does this, I want to know they got punished, and it needs to be known they got punished. So maybe some, other potential idiot decides not to be an idiot because they hear about the punishment. That needs to be part of this conversation too. So I'm glad this 19-year-old who racially abused Marcus Rashford on Twitter after the Euro final, I'm glad he is going to jail for 6 weeks. Hopefully he doesn't go to jail for a longer period of time down the road for doing it again. We'll see where that goes. But thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for the conversation. I like when the conversation gets a little bit of friction at times. It's the U.S. men's national team. There's always friction. It's always how it is. Hopefully everything goes well tonight. It should. Hopefully there's no sweating of anything tonight. There shouldn't be. Hopefully all goes well, and we're talking about it tomorrow, and we know that it is, as it should be right now, the U.S. and Mexico going to the World Cup, Costa Rica going into the playoff spot. we will know who will come out of Oceania. That's at 1 o'clock today. You can watch that on 11 Sports, the former Maikuju. You can watch that at 1 o'clock. New Zealand and the Solomon Islands. The winner moves on into the Interconfederational playoff. The loser is out. We'll talk about all that tomorrow. We'll have Nico Moreno on. We'll break down what happened with his beloved Colombia. We'll also break down what's coming up in the next round of Major League Soccer. Thanks for hanging out with us. Stoppage time at 2 o'clock. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.